Hello everybody, I want to show you now the abandoned graveyard here in Yada, Japan. This is the old Tokaido highway of the famous 53 stages of the Tokaido by Hiroshige Ando, the Woodblock Prince series. Very famous road, the old, most famous road in old Japan. And you can always tell these old roads by the way they curve like that. They don't follow necessarily a city designer's plans. They follow the contour of the landscape, particularly in an older time, before they could move the earth and plow their way through hills and tunnels and over bridges and the like. So it just followed the contour of the land, a nice curve. You can also tell by the big houses along the way. Here's an entire state right here. This one house right here, the land that it occupies, could occupy an entire apartment block in one of them. So this is the old Tokaido highway. Goes up there and up there. Now, see, the farmer just came out. I always hate being caught filming people. Anyway, what I want to show you is that down this road. Now, walk with me on the old Tokaido, taking footsteps, just like pilgrims did and travelers did in the old days. You know, traveling from. I'm on the road. I'm on the way towards Edo, Tokyo, right now. This is the route that people would have taken from Kyoto to Edo. And if you go back this way, from Edo back to Kyoto. Well, let's go back to Kyoto to Edo, and you can still do it, although it's in bits and pieces. And this used to be biggest road in Japan. And now I can walk right down the center, and no one will trouble me. There are no cars. There's almost no traffic at all. It's how times change. And here we go. So we have more of these big estates along here. And what I want to show you though is that, okay, imagine you're back in the old days. You're in the old Tokaido period, in the Edo period, and you're traveling along here. One of the features that you'd find, well, you'd see things like this a lot, these old stone lanterns, and there are several of these, so this is not that old. One of the things you'd see is temples and shrines along the way, and the temples and shrines are, look at that place. Basically, we're part of the landscape. And people would stop and pray. And people, had their religious leanings, and they would stop and pray at the shrines, or maybe rest at the temples, and do their thing. And right along here, there is indeed such a thing. Look at this lantern. Wow, and some old jugs, right? And they're ceramic jugs. I see those in the countryside all the time. Isn't that cool? There is a Buddhist temple right up here, on this corner. See how the road again is curving, following the curve of the landscape. I'm going to stop and make like a left turn here that goes up to the hills, and used to be all farms, except there's a Buddhist temple right here. And this temple has a graveyard, and you can see the graveyard right here. You can see all the graves poking out right there. Now what I'm going to show you is perhaps not technically truly abandoned, but in a way simply no longer used, or neglected, or maybe just forgotten. Maybe that's a better word for it. See, these graves are not forgotten. They have the flowers, the offerings, placed there by the family. Now, each of these monuments represents an entire family. I'm going to loiter a bit while this gentleman does his thing. Each of them represents an entire family. And over here to the left are older gravestones. Now, in the past, everyone knows about cremation in Japan, but in the past, Japanese were indeed buried whole. They weren't cremated, and they would have these gravestones sometimes represent individuals. And I was told once that these older stones about this size represent about the Meiji period, about the opening of Japan, 1868 and the like, and early Edo period and Taisho period in that era. These are the more modern ones, the Taisho and Showa period, the more modern era. So they would have, I'm going to go up here, and they would have these gravestones that would, these ones here are for an entire family, and these wooden slats right there, do you see those wooden slats? Those represent the people who have recently deceased, and their name is on them. So this is one tomb it is really a tomb, and the ashes of the individuals are within, and these slats represent those who have recently departed, and here are the names of all the people. Now this is a big established family. Each of those lines, vertical lines, represents the name of an individual who has passed in this family, and each of them have their ashes interred within this monument. Now, in the older style, they would have these stones here. Maybe these stones represented families, maybe they represented individuals. I'm not entirely sure, but there they go. These are the older ones and the newer ones. Now, what I often see in these old temples, this is a really old temple. There's the temple building, and the priest lives there in the back. What I often see sometimes, if you look carefully, are remnants of how the graveyard used to be further detached from the temple. You can see here's the road, this land over here. Imagine, take yourself back 100, 200 years. And this would have been all fields, farmlands. Tokugawa Ieyasu, back in the 1600s, he would come out here to falcon in these fields out here and spend his days riding his horse, galloping up and down. And so imagine this was just this road running through fields of rice and just open fields of grass and the like. And then there would be a temple. And the temple would sometimes place its graves for a bit away from the grave of the temple itself. And here we have it. Look for this kind of thing when you're traveling around. There's basically a weed patch. Now, if you were just walking by, you might not even think much about it. You're just thinking, whoa, there's a patch of undeveloped land. But let's take a closer look. Remember what we saw over here with the graves. Modern grave, old grave. And sometimes the old graves are associated with these. Given enough time, now people are taking care of this. See the flowers? That means someone's actually tending to these. Given enough time, this family will die. It's simply a fact that families wear out. It's about 7 generations or so when a family is gone. And eventually there's no one to take care of them. No one left to put the flowers on. No one left to think about them. No one left to come back and visit. No one left to pray for those who have passed. No one left at all. And all that remains are the stones. And look at this, everybody. What do we have here? There's a big stone right there. And over here, all kinds of little stones, just like we saw on the other side. These are the graves of the forgotten. These are the graves of the past families, the dead families, the families, and I don't mean any disrespect in saying that, but families do die. Just as individuals die, families die as well. Even the longest-lived families will eventually meld and blend into the fabric of society and become no more. And what may be left are the simple monuments that we create for them. Now, I won't trespass too much, so I'll just walk a little bit in here. Have a look at this. I'll be quiet for just a second. I'll try. On the stone here, there's some writing on there, but it's very faint. It's cracked down there at the bottom. Over there. I feel really nervous in here. I feel like I'm trespassing. I don't like doing that. Over there. I'm going to step out. See how this one has the stone at the top? Now there's people walking by. I need to show respect. That's one of the things I really do advocate. It's necessary. It's absolutely a prime requirement when you're in someone else's backyard, or in your own backyard as well, your neighbors. Be a good neighbor. Well, fortunately I have my good digital team. I'll show you from afar. This is where the water we place. My father-in-law has a habit of taking a leaf and running it through the water and placing it on the stone. You can see there's an old kanji here. I think this was a woman, isn't it? Kanji, can't make that all out. Kanji is fading fast. Wow. I don't know if these are for individuals or for families here. And you can see the stones all along here, a little border here. Big spider webs over there. I'm sure there's more back there as well. Big trees here, all overgrown. Nobody really cares for this place anymore. I'll get run over. Basically all just falling back to the forest. Now I'll take you over here briefly and show you the temple itself. So this is basically an abandoned graveyard. Oh, that's a good shot right there. Look at that. An abandoned graveyard. Not really abandoned maybe that would be the right word. Forgotten. And I think on this channel I'll expand the category of abandoned to include all nature of things that are basically no longer tended for, no longer cared for or thought about much anymore. There we go. Let's go ahead and step away from that. And here's a look at it. And I see this kind of thing often, especially when I'm hiking in the mountains as Softy Papa. High up in the mountains, I often see these types of places. Sometimes I've even found in the middle of a forest a graveyard that is basically, there's the guy coming out, a graveyard that is completely forgotten. Let's just go over here and take a look at the temple now. Now, people are coming all about. That's one of the things about exploring in urban Japan. And I mean, somewhat this would be considered kind of a suburban area. One of the things about exploring an area like that is there are people literally everywhere. You cannot do anything in Japan without being watched and observed constantly. Here's the temple itself. Here are the Jizo statue. There should be 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, representing the 6 stages of incarnation in the cycle of living. Here's a Jizo, another Jizo. Look at these. Well, that's the famous see, say, speak, and no, see, speak, see, get it right, Kurt. See, hear, and speak no evil. Typically, those are the 3 monkeys. That's curious. And over here, here's a Mizuko Jizo. Mizuko Jizo are for the children that have passed. Each one of these small statues, sad to say, represents a child who is gone. Their parent, perhaps their mother, has purchased this statue to put place here. There is some controversy in Japan associated with this. I won't get into that now, but maybe that's something for another channel, another time. Here's another Jizo. We'll just step inside the gate here. Look at these beautiful wooden gates. Isn't that nice? The iron fittings there. Really nice small graveyard. Now, shrines in Japan, you can typically walk in and explore. Temples are a little more private because the shrines are open to community things. Temples are typically for families. You're associated with a shrine as a family. You've got your graves there, and you pay money and you're a patron to it. I think that for the most part, most Japanese, I could be wrong about this, but most Japanese are friendly to having foreigners come and visit. But I typically don't loiter too long in temples as I would in a shrine because it feels like a more private thing. Although one feature that you'll often find in temples is schools. In this case, a kindergarten, a preschool, right over there, nearby. Often these little schools are associated with the shrine in some way, or they may simply. And I think that there was that. And that's true with shrines as well. I mean, temples. They're sometimes associated with a temple. But that's true with shrines as well, where there's often an association. And now, take a look at this. This is the locking mechanism on this door. You slide. I won't do it, but slide. You can get in and out when the big main gate is closed. Well, friends. Oh, look at this. Wow. Look at this ornamental pine hanging over the entrance to the shrine. A very auspicious symbol. Pines are wonderful symbols of good luck in Japan. This is a very healthy, prosperous shrine with a bit of trailing edge of the past, kind of a forgotten bit of ancestry in a small grave plot across the street. Well, everybody, thank you for stopping by to have a look. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and make it a great one. Take care.